Hello everyone! Welcome back to our English listening practice. What if learning English didn't have to feel boring or stressful? What if there was a simple trick, something easy, fun, and effective that could help you improve your English faster without feeling overwhelmed? In today's conversation, you're going to discover one of the easiest and most enjoyable ways to learn English. No pressure, no complicated methods, just a smart approach that fits into your daily life. You will hear how small habits, consistency, and the right mindset can make a huge difference in your progress, and the best part, it doesn't feel like studying at all. So, listen carefully, relax, and enjoy the conversation because this might be the trick you've been looking for. Are you ready? Let's get started. First up, let me introduce myself. My name is Megan. Today, I'm gonna have a talk with my friend Andy. He claims he's already fluent and totally mastered English, and apparently, it was a breeze for him. I'm low-key dying to know his secret sauce, because I've been grinding in English courses for years, and I'm still not quite there yet. Let's just dive right into our convo and see what's up.
Hey Megan, you sounded really curious earlier. What's on your mind? You kept looking at me like you were analyzing something, and now I'm wondering what you noticed.
Yeah, I was actually paying attention to how you speak English. You sound really natural, like it just flows without effort. And I honestly want to know how you got that good.
Oh, it's nothing complicated, really. I didn't follow some strict academic method or memorize tons of grammar rules. I just built the habit over time in a more relaxed way.
That's exactly what surprises me. I've been studying grammar, memorizing vocabulary, even taking notes, but I still don't feel as fluent as you when speaking.
I get that. And honestly, I used to feel the same way. But then I changed my approach and focused more on exposure rather than perfection, and that made a huge difference.
Exposure? What do you mean by that exactly? Like just surrounding yourself with English all the time or something more specific?
Yeah, pretty much. I started watching a lot of movies in English with subtitles, and sometimes even dubbing, and over time my brain just got used to the patterns.
Wait, so you're telling me watching movies can actually make you fluent? That sounds too simple to be true. Like, there has to be more to it.
It does sound simple, but consistency is the key. I didn't just watch casually, I paid attention to how people speak, their tone, their expressions, and repeated phrases in my head.
That's interesting because when I watch movies, I usually just focus on the story and not really on how they speak. Maybe that's where I've been doing it wrong.
Exactly, that's the difference. You can turn entertainment into learning if you stay aware, and it doesn't feel like studying at all, which makes it easier to stay consistent.
Okay, that actually makes sense. But what about vocabulary? Don't you need to memorize a lot of words to speak fluently?
I used to think that too, but instead of memorizing lists, I learned words naturally through context. When you hear the same word again and again, you just remember it automatically.
So basically your brain just absorbs everything without forcing it? That sounds way more comfortable than what I've been doing all this time.
Yeah, it's like how kids learn a language. They don't sit down and study grammar first, they just listen and slowly understand, then eventually start speaking.
That comparison actually helps a lot. I guess I've been treating English like a subject instead of a skill that grows with practice and exposure.
Exactly. It's more like a habit than a lesson. Besides movies, I also read books in English, even simple ones at first, just to get used to sentence structures.
Reading too? I thought that would be difficult, especially if you don't understand every word. Didn't that slow you down?
At the beginning, yes, but I didn't try to understand everything. I focused on the general meaning, and over time, my comprehension improved naturally.
That's actually relieving to hear. I always feel pressured to understand every single word, and it makes me lose motivation quickly.
You don't need to be perfect to improve. In fact, accepting that you won't understand everything is part of the process, and it keeps things less stressful.
I like that mindset. So besides movies and books, did you do anything else to improve your English?
Yeah, I listened to a lot of English music and podcasts. Music helped me with pronunciation and rhythm, while podcasts trained my listening skills more deeply.
Podcasts sound interesting, but I feel like they might be too fast for me. What if I can't keep up with what they're saying?
That's normal at first. You can start with slower podcasts or even replay episodes. The important thing is to keep exposing your ears to the language.
So basically, it's all about repetition and consistency, right? Not forcing yourself to understand everything immediately.
Exactly. Think of it like training your brain slowly. The more you hear English, the more familiar it becomes, and eventually it starts to feel natural.
I'm starting to see the pattern here. You didn't rely on one method. You combined several habits that made English part of your daily life.
That's right. I didn't separate learning from my routine, I integrated it. Watching, reading, listening, it all became something I enjoyed, not something I had to do.
That actually sounds fun compared to traditional studying. Maybe that's why you stayed consistent and improved faster.
Exactly, because I wasn't forcing myself. When you enjoy the process, you don't feel tired, and you end up practicing more without realizing it.
I think that's what I've been missing. I focused too much on results instead of enjoying the process, and it made everything feel like a burden.
Yeah, and language learning shouldn't feel like a burden. It's more like building a lifestyle where English becomes part of your everyday activities.
You've really changed my perspective. I feel like I've been doing things the hard way when there's actually a more natural approach.
Don't worry, it's never too late to switch methods. You already have the foundation, you just need to adjust how you practice from now on.
So if I start today, watching movies, listening to podcasts, and reading casually, do you think I'll eventually become fluent like you?
Absolutely, as long as you stay consistent. It might take time, but you'll definitely notice progress, especially in your confidence and listening skills.
That's really motivating to hear. I guess I just needed someone to explain it in a simple and realistic way like this.
I'm glad I could help. Just remember, don't rush the process. Focus on enjoying it, and fluency will come naturally over time.
Thanks, Andy. I'm actually excited to start this new approach. It feels less stressful and more doable than what I've been doing.
That's the spirit. Once you start enjoying English, you'll realize it's not as hard as it seems, and you'll improve faster than you expect.
All right, I'm going to start with a movie tonight, maybe with subtitles first and then try without them later.
That's a perfect plan. Take it step by step, and don't forget to just relax and enjoy the experience.
Got it. Thanks again, Andy. I'll let you know how it goes after a few days of trying this method.
I'll be waiting to hear your progress. Trust me, you're going to surprise yourself.
I've been thinking about what you said, Andy, and honestly, I still have some doubts. What if I end up working in a company where formal English is required? That kind of environment usually expects proper grammar and correct verb usage.
That's a fair concern, and I understand why you're thinking that way. But here's the thing. Formal English doesn't come only from memorizing rules. It actually grows naturally when you're already used to the language.
I don't know, it still feels risky to rely on that. I mean, in a professional setting, one small mistake in verb tense can change the meaning and make you sound unprofessional.
You're not wrong, but you're also overestimating how perfect people actually speak in real workplaces. Even professionals don't always speak perfectly, but they communicate clearly because they're used to the language.
So you're saying fluency matters more than perfection? Because I've always been told that grammar is the most important thing, especially in formal situations.
Fluency builds the foundation, and grammar refines it. When you expose yourself to a lot of correct English through movies, books, and podcasts, your brain starts recognizing what sounds right without you consciously thinking about rules.
That sounds nice in theory, but I'm still worried. What if I end up developing bad habits because I'm not actively studying grammar from the beginning?
That's a common fear, but actually constant exposure to correct usage reduces that risk. You're not learning randomly, you're learning from native-level input, which naturally guides you toward correct patterns.
So basically, you're saying my brain will auto-correct itself over time just by being exposed to the language again and again?
Exactly. It's like building instinct. At some point, you won't think, is this verb correct? You'll just feel that it is, because you've heard it used that way so many times.
I guess that's similar to how we use our native language. We don't think about grammar rules every time we speak, but we still sound correct most of the time.
That's the perfect comparison. You didn't learn your first language by memorizing verb tables. You learned it by listening and using it daily. And English can work the same way.
But what about formal writing, like emails or reports? Those require more structure, and I feel like that's where grammar really matters.
True, formal writing does require more structure, but once your exposure is strong, learning those rules becomes much easier. It's like polishing something that already exists, not building from zero.
So instead of starting with grammar, I should build familiarity first and then refine it later when I actually need it.
Exactly, because if you start with grammar alone, you might understand rules but struggle to use them naturally. But if you start with exposure, grammar becomes something you recognize instead of memorize.
That actually changes how I see it. Maybe I've been trying to control everything too early instead of letting the process develop first.
Yeah, and that pressure can slow you down. When you relax and let your brain absorb the language, you build confidence first, and accuracy follows naturally.
I still think I'll need to study some grammar eventually, though. I don't want to completely ignore it and regret it later.
And that's totally fine. I'm not saying ignore grammar forever. I'm saying don't make it your main focus at the beginning. Use it as support, not as the core.
That actually sounds more realistic. So I can still learn grammar, but I shouldn't depend on it too much in the early stages.
Exactly. Think of grammar as a tool, not the goal. The goal is communication, and once you can communicate comfortably, improving accuracy becomes much easier.
I'm starting to feel more convinced now. It's not that grammar isn't important, it's just about when and how you focus on it.
That's the idea. Timing matters, and building natural familiarity first gives you a huge advantage later, even in formal environments.
All right, I think I'll try your method seriously now, but I'll also keep a small portion of time for grammar just to stay balanced.
That's actually a great approach. You don't need extremes, just consistency and the right priorities, and you'll improve steadily.
Thanks, Andy. I feel a lot less anxious about this now. It doesn't feel like I'm taking a risky shortcut anymore.
Good, because it's not a shortcut. It's just a more natural path. And trust me, when you reach that level, formal English will feel much more natural than you expect.
I get what you're saying, Andy, but I think we're talking about two different goals here. You're focusing on becoming fluent quickly, while my goal is to use English professionally in workplace.
That's true, but even in your case, fluency still comes first. If your goal is to speak smoothly and confidently, then focusing too much on verbs and grammar at the beginning might actually slow you down.
But I can't just ignore grammar completely, especially if I want to work in a company. Employers expect clear and correct communication, not just confidence.
I'm not saying you should ignore it forever. I'm saying for now, if your main goal is to become fluent quickly, you can let grammar take a back seat while you build your speaking habits.
That's the part I disagree with. For me, fluency without accuracy could become a problem later, especially if I get used to speaking incorrectly from the start.
I understand your concern, but when you talk to people who are already fluent, they usually understand you even if your grammar isn't perfect. Communication still works.
Yes, but being understood isn't enough in a professional setting. I don't want to just get my message across. I want to sound competent and reliable too.
That's fair, but confidence plays a huge role in that. If you hesitate too much because you're overthinking grammar, it can actually make you sound less confident.
I agree that overthinking is bad, but having a strong foundation in grammar can actually boost confidence too, because you know what you're saying is correct.
That's true, but building that foundation through exposure can be faster. When you listen and watch a lot, your brain picks up correct patterns without needing to analyze everything.
But what if those patterns aren't enough for formal communication? Movies and casual conversations don't always reflect how people speak in meetings or write emails.
That's a good point, but they still give you a strong base. Once you're comfortable with everyday English, transitioning to formal English becomes much easier.
I still feel like I'd be taking a risk if I delay learning grammar. I'd rather build fluency and correctness at the same time, even if it takes longer.
And that's a valid choice. It just depends on your priority. If you want speed, my method works well. If you want precision from the start, your approach makes sense too.
Yeah, because my goal isn't just to speak English casually. I want to use it in interviews, presentations, and professional discussions without sounding unprepared.
Then maybe you don't have to fully follow my method. You can still use it as your main practice, but combine it with some focused grammar learning for your specific goals.
That actually sounds more balanced. So I can still watch movies, listen to podcasts, and read books, but also study grammar in a practical way.
Exactly. And instead of memorizing everything, you can focus on grammar that you actually see and hear often. That way it feels more relevant and easier to apply.
I like that idea.
It feels safer for my long-term goal while still keeping the learning process enjoyable and natural.
That's the key, finding a method that fits your purpose. Not everyone needs the same approach, and your goal definitely requires a bit more structure.
Yeah, I guess that's why I couldn't fully agree at first. Your method sounds great for becoming fluent quickly, but my situation needs a bit more than that.
And that's completely fine. What matters is that you keep improving consistently, whether it's through exposure, grammar, or a mix of both.
Thanks for explaining it like this, Andy. Now I feel like I can adjust your method instead of rejecting it completely.
All right then, if that's what you believe works best for you, go ahead and focus on verbs and grammar. You can fill pages and pages in your notebook if that makes you feel more secure.
Why do you say it like that? It sounds like you think what I'm doing is pointless, even though I'm just trying to build a strong foundation.
I'm not saying it's pointless, I'm just saying it's not the easiest path for everyone. For me, sitting down and writing rules over and over would feel exhausting and slow.
But at least I know what I'm learning is structured and correct. I feel more in control when I understand the rules behind what I'm saying.
And that's fine, seriously. We just have different learning styles. I prefer learning through listening because it feels more natural and less stressful for me.
So you never really sat down and studied grammar seriously? Not even when you were starting out?
Not really. I picked up most of it by watching movies, listening to podcasts, and hearing how people actually speak. Over time, it just started to click.
That still amazes me. I feel like if I don't write things down and review them, I'll just forget everything.
That's the difference. You rely more on memorization, while I rely on repetition through exposure. I hear things so often that I don't need to force myself to remember them.
But doesn't that take a long time? I mean, listening again and again until it sticks sounds like a slow process too.
It might seem slow, but it's actually very effective. And the best part is, it doesn't feel like studying, so I can do it for hours without getting tired.
I guess that's an advantage. When I study grammar, I get tired pretty quickly, especially when the rules start getting complicated.
Exactly. And when you're tired, you lose motivation. That's why I stick with listening, because I can enjoy the process while still learning at the same time.
Still, I feel like writing things down helps me organize my thoughts. It gives me a sense of progress, like I'm actually building something step by step.
And that's valuable too. I'm not against it, I just personally don't need it. I'd rather spend that time watching a movie or listening to a podcast.
So, for you, learning English is more like a daily habit rather than a study session?
Exactly. It's part of my routine. I listen to English almost every day, whether it's music, podcasts, or conversations, and that keeps me improving naturally.
I can see why you're so comfortable speaking now. You've basically trained your ears and your brain at the same time.
Yeah, and once your listening gets strong, speaking becomes much easier. You already know how sentences should sound, so you just follow that instinct.
Meanwhile, I'm here trying to remember which verb tense to use before I even finish my sentence.
And that's what slows you down sometimes. You're thinking too much while speaking instead of letting it flow.
You're right about that. Sometimes I hesitate because I'm afraid of making mistakes, especially with grammar.
That's exactly why I chose listening as my main method. It helped me build confidence first, and accuracy came later without too much pressure.
I guess both methods have their pros and cons. Mine is more structured but slower. Yours is more natural but requires patience and consistency.
That's a good way to put it. At the end of the day, it depends on what makes you stay consistent, because consistency is what really matters.
Maybe I'll try adding more listening to my routine, even if I still keep my grammar notes. I don't want to miss out on that benefit.
That sounds like a smart move. You don't have to completely change your style, just improve it by adding what works.
And maybe I'll try not to stress too much about making mistakes when speaking. I think that's been holding me back.
Exactly. Mistakes are part of the process. The more you expose yourself to English, the more those mistakes will fix themselves over time.
All right, I think I understand your perspective better now. Even if I don't fully agree, I can see why your method works for you.
And I understand yours too. Just remember, there's no single perfect way to learn, as long as you keep moving forward.
Thanks, Andy. I guess we just took different paths to the same goal, and that's okay.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe combining both approaches will get you there even faster than you expect.
You know what, Andy? After thinking about everything we talked about, I think I'm starting to understand your point better. I still care about grammar, but I can't deny that listening really does help a lot.
I'm glad you're seeing it that way. I wasn't trying to say grammar's useless, just that listening can be a powerful foundation if you do it consistently.
Yeah, and the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. If I listen to English every single day, my brain will naturally get used to it, and things will start to feel familiar.
Exactly. That's the idea. Familiarity builds comfort, and once you're comfortable, speaking becomes much easier and more natural.
It actually reminds me of how babies learn to speak. They don't understand anything at first, but they keep hearing adults talk every day, and slowly they begin to recognize words and patterns.
That's one of the best examples you can use. They don't study grammar or memorize rules, they just listen repeatedly until everything starts to make sense.
Right, and over time, they don't just understand, they start speaking too, even without realizing how they learned it. That's kind of amazing when you think about it.
It really is, and that's why I believe listening is such a natural way to learn a language. It follows the same process our brain is already used to.
So if I apply that method even as an adult, I should still be able to improve in a similar way, right? Maybe not exactly the same, but close enough.
Definitely. Adults might learn a bit differently, but the principle still works. The more you hear the language, the more your brain adapts to it.
I think my mistake before was not being consistent. I listened sometimes, but not every day, so my brain never really got used to the patterns.
Consistency is everything. Even a little bit every day is better than doing a lot once in a while and then stopping.
That makes sense. If I build a daily habit like watching a short video, listening to a podcast, or even just hearing music in English, it will slowly add up.
Exactly. And because it's something you can enjoy, it won't feel like a burden. That's what makes it sustainable in the long run.
I'm actually feeling more confident now. Instead of forcing myself to understand everything, I'll just focus on getting used to the sound of English first.
That's the right mindset. Understanding will come naturally after enough exposure, so you don't need to rush it.
And I think I'll still keep some grammar practice, but I won't stress about it as much as before. I'll let listening take the bigger role.
That sounds like a great balance. You're not ignoring grammar, but you're also not letting it slow you down.
Yeah, and honestly, your explanation about babies really changed my perspective. It made me realize that learning a language doesn't always have to be complicated.
I'm glad it helped. Sometimes the simplest approach is actually the most effective, especially when it comes to building habits.
All right, then starting today, I'm going to commit to listening to English every single day. No excuses. Even if it's just a little, I'll stay consistent.
That's the spirit. If you keep that up, I'm sure you'll notice improvement sooner than you expect.
Thanks, Andy. I feel like I've finally found a method that I can stick with without feeling overwhelmed.
You're welcome, Megan. Just enjoy the process, trust the consistency, and let your progress happen naturally over time.
Okay, that's the blueprint for his English skills. Might as well give it a shot and see if it actually works, or if it's just mid. But honestly, it low-key makes sense if you're constantly surrounding yourself with the language. You will start picking it up naturally. The main thing is just staying consistent and not flopping. Let's see if I can actually pull this off. That's the end of today's English listening practice. I hope this lesson helped you improve your listening comprehension and understand English more naturally. Remember, learning English takes time and practice, so keep listening and keep learning every day because consistency is the key to mastering a new language. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel with your friends. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.